because I wanted to eat Oreos. Because I wanted to eat Oreos. Hi and welcome back to The Books Are Everywhere. So today I'm going to be sharing some books that are perfect for Pride Month. Pride Month takes place over the month of June, and I really wanted to recommend some LGBT books to you, but I wanted to do it creatively, so I came up with the idea of basically doing a rainbow of books that they're all LGBT in some way, and I'm going to recommend them to you based on their colour, well, in order of the colours of the rainbow. So I was just sat there last night looking at my bookshelves thinking, which books can I recommend for red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo and purple? Because I can't differentiate between lilac and indigo. So we just have purple at the end. So I have some books for you to recommend. We're going to go through them in colour. There's some completely different ones here, all across the spectrum of LGBTQIA+. And some of these I read years ago, and some of these one of them I literally just read this morning, but I've read all of them at some point. I wanted to recommend you guys books that I know and love and have read, rather than ones I'm not sure about. So I've read every single book in this video and I wanted to recommend them to you. So let's dive right in. So to start us off with the red, we have Simon vs. the Homo Sapiens Agenda, or Love, Simon by Becky Albertalli. I honestly felt like this is an absolute staple in YA fiction and LGBT YA fiction, and I could not include this in the video. It's also one of the only purely red books that I own and can confidently say that this is red. So it's perfect, it fits. This is more commonly known as Love, Simon, and this follows Simon, who is 16, and he is trying to work out who he is. He's trying to work out things about himself, and he starts emailing somebody anonymously through his school called Blue. That's not their real name, and essentially somebody finds these emails and they go out to the school and drama ensues. There is this whole thing in Creekwood High where there's this forum that people post on and it ends up on there. But this is a really fun story. I really like Simon's story. I've recently been watching Love, Victor, which is the series that's based off this book that is about somebody else in the school, I think a couple years on from this story, which I've been really enjoying. Me and my boyfriend have been watching that. And I would also highly recommend the movie of this book, which is really sweet. I've also been eating Oreos this lunchtime, and I have this one right here to eat in a minute, because you may or may not know, if you've read this book, there is a link to Oreos, and that's why I thought this would be perfect when I realised I was eating Oreos and about to talk about this book. And the next one I wanted to recommend is kind of between red and orange. It's kind of this very dark burnt orange, so it's next, and that is Felix Ever After by Case and Calendar. I read this book last year and I absolutely loved it. So this follows Felix Love, who has ironically never been in love. He goes to an art school in New York City. He's black, he's trans, and he's still kind of discovering things about himself when someone starts posting and they start putting up transphobic messages against Felix. Obviously Felix doesn't know who is doing this to him, so he basically tries to find out who's doing this. And a lot of things ensue. I really like how this was the story of somebody after their transition, but carried on kind of discovering things about themselves and their identity. It's very chaotic, a lot of things happen in this book, it's very emotional, it's very hard-hitting, but I would definitely recommend this one. I absolutely loved it. And going into the definitely more orangey of the oranges, we have I Was Born for This by Alice Oseman. There is a few Alice Oseman books in this pile, not only because they're all mostly LGBT, but they have kind of great colours of the rainbow in them. So this one I wanted to include because this one also has a trans character. This follows Angel, who basically is a massive super fan of a boy band called The Ark, and it also follows The Ark and Jimmy, who is the lead singer of the band. And I think this is told in alternate points of view, if I remember rightly. I think I read this one last year as well. And this one is just a very interesting discussion of kind of friendship and fame. and whether your idol is everything that you think they are. I just found this one a really, really fun story, and I would really recommend it. It also has a trans side character, which is discussed kind of later on in this book in a very heartwarming way. And yeah, Alice Oseman. And the next one is an absolute brick, and that is The Priory of the Orange Tree by Samantha Shannon. Not only is this very orange, it's also very gay. Even though I read this at the start of the year, I'm still going to struggle to tell you what this is about because there are so many different threads in this story across the world. But basically this follows somebody who is a queen, this follows somebody who is a dragon rider. There is so many different characters in this book, but there is a big lesbian sapphic romance. So that is why I wanted to recommend this one. It's also a kind of political feminist fantasy, and I would definitely recommend it. I would love to reread this one at some point purely because even though I have read it, I feel like I still don't understand everything that happened because, as I said, a lot happened in this 850 pages. I can't remember how long it is. And it comes as no surprise that there is a massive glossary in the back of it. So this is 804 pages without the glossary, and then there is a chunk of kind of glossary at the back. But yeah, I would definitely recommend this one, and it's sapphic. And then we have another sapphic romance, and that is The Falling in Love Montage by Kira Smith. I really enjoyed this one. I read this fairly recently as part of the Easter Readathon, I believe, and I really enjoyed it. This follows Saoirse, who has basically sworn against love because she doesn't believe that relationships really end happily or love ends happily. So she's sworn against romance, and then she comes across Ruby, and they kind of find this loophole and decide that there is a loophole in Saoirse's plan, and they decide that if they're only in a relationship for the summer, that relationship doesn't count because they know when it's going to end anyway. But of course things don't always work out as they are planned. I found this one really fun, and it's a great summer contemporary with a lot of hard-hitting discussions. It also talks a lot about Saoirse's relationship with her mother who has dementia, and it talks a lot about dementia in this book, and I would highly recommend it. Then we're getting into the yellows, which is kind of very muddled up and they're not really in an order, but first we have Mooncakes. This is by Wendy Zhu and Suzanne Walker, and I love this graphic novel. This is a graphic novel recommendation that is absolutely beautiful and it's very, very queer. So this follows, I can't remember the main character's name, Nova, who is a teenage witch and also works in her, I think, grandparents' bookstore, and her grandparents are both women in a sapphic relationship, and there's a side character who is non-binary because Nova, as a witch, goes off into the woods and discovers her childhood crush, who is Tam Lang, who is battling a horse demon and is also non-binary. This is absolutely brilliant, and the queer rep in this is just really, really natural, which I really enjoyed. It doesn't feel forced at all. And this, I cannot even tell you how beautiful the illustrations are in this book, and the colours of this book are just amazing. I would love to reread this at some point, because honestly I read it in a night and I just absolutely loved it so much, and the colours are just so pretty. So I'd highly recommend this one. It's been one of my favourite books of the year so far. Then we have I Wish You All the Best by Mason Diva. I wasn't really sure where to put this in the rainbow, but it has kind of this cream coloured yellowy spine, so I've put it in the yellows, but wherever it falls in the rainbow I would definitely recommend this one. This follows Ben, who is non-binary, and because of them being non-binary they are kicked out of their home by their parents, so they go and live with their sister. It's basically a whole kind of discovery and discussion of being non-binary and coming out to a whole new group of people. Ben then starts at a new school and starts meeting new people, which includes Nathan. And I love these two so much. Ben's story just means an absolute lot to me. It taught me a lot about how it feels to be non-binary and come out to the people around you. And I just love the discussions that this book brings up. It is so important and it has such a place in my heart. Then we have I'll Give You the Sun by Jandy Nelson. Again, I didn't know where to put this in because this is the cover and this is the spine. It should be the same colour, but this has had sun damage over the years and has turned into this kind of yellowy cream, whereas the covers stayed like very much an orangey colour. But anyway, I don't want to swap this book out for a new one because I have this signed and personalised, but I still love this book with all my heart. It just makes me laugh how different this is than the cover now. But this follows Jude and Noah, who are twins. I haven't read this book for a very long time. It's probably been about 5 years, but it remains one of my favourite books because I absolutely adored it and I would love to reread it soon. Anyway, this is told in kind of alternate points of view, but it's about like 100 pages or more between the switching of the points of view. This follows Jude and Noah, who are twins, and it follows them kind of in a period of turmoil and grief when their mother passes away, and Noah ends up in a relationship with a guy. I don't think that's a spoiler because I know it says it in the Goodreads synopsis, but I just absolutely love this book. It is so beautifully written and so emotional, and I absolutely loved it. Honestly, I would not recommend it enough, and I would love to reread it soon. Then we have Carry On by Rowell. As I said, I kind of wanted to give you a whole range of books to choose from, so this one is a fantasy book that has a chosen one trope that follows Simon Snow, who is the worst chosen one that's ever been chosen. So he is not very good at being a wizard and using magic, but he has been chosen. It's about him and his relationship with his roommate, Baz, and they are kind of arch enemies. There is a lot of fun in this book. It follows a lovely group of friends, and there is another book coming out this year that makes it a trilogy. So there's this one and Wayward Son. And if you didn't know, this is the story that is featured within Fangirl. It is the fanfiction that Kath is writing in Fangirl, and Rainbow decided to make this a whole other story. I would really recommend this one. It's a lot of fun. I haven't read the first one for a while, but I did read Wayward Son fairly recently and still enjoyed it, and I do have Anyway the Wind Blows on pre-order. And then we're into the greens and we have another Alice Oseman book. This is Heartstopper Volume 3 by Alice Oseman. Heartstopper follows Nick and Charlie, who are two boys in a high school. So Charlie's the younger brother, I think he's the younger brother, of the main character of Solitaire. And I just absolutely love this story so much. This is a series of graphic novels by Alice Oseman, and it basically follows them as they kind of very slowly develop a friendship and fall in love. This is a boy meets boy romance. It's a gay romance. It's set in a high school, and it honestly discusses so many important issues such as mental health, anxiety, depression, any kind of issues around coming out and what a big thing that is. And there is specifically discussions of eating disorders, especially in this book, and I believe the 4th volume, though I haven't actually read it yet. And I chose this one not only because it's green, but it is set in Paris and it's my favourite one in the series so far, although as I said, I haven't read volume 4 yet. And the next one is The Love and Lies of Roxanna Ali, which is very green. I read this one a couple years ago before Yelp 2019, and I absolutely adored this book so much. This follows Roxanna, who is Muslim and her family is Muslim, and she is a lesbian, which is very frowned upon in her family. So when her parents find out that she's a lesbian, they send her off to Bangladesh, I believe, where she's thrown into kind of arranged marriage in a world of tradition, and it's basically about her trying to convince her parents and change their opinions that, you know, she is normal, there's nothing wrong with her being gay, and also trying to kind of get back to the person that she left behind. I really adored this book so much. It had so many important discussions and I would highly recommend it. And then we have Wilder Girls, so we definitely have quite a variety because this one is a YA horror book. And this isn't very out and proud, it's not very loud about its queerness, but it does have some sapphic relationships in here. And this is about a girl called Hetty who is trapped on an island because there is a virus that's gone around this island. So she lives on this island with other girls in this school, and they came down with a virus, and ever since then they've been trapped on this island. But Hetty's friend goes missing and she decides to follow her friend kind of across the island and in two places that she shouldn't be going. And because of that, she kind of finds stuff about the island that she didn't know, and there's a lot of mystery, and they uncover a lot that they really shouldn't be knowing or discovering about this island. I really, really enjoyed this one. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars, I believe, and I'm really looking forward to reading Burn Our Bodies Down, which is also by Rory Power. Then we have Aristotle and Dante discover the secrets of the universe, and this is the one that I finished this morning, just before I decided to film this video. This one follows Aristotle and Dante. They're both teenage boys. Ari is a teenage boy who's angry and his brother is in prison, and he's never really known his brother, and he wants to kind of know more about his brother. And Dante is a know-it-all with a unique perspective on life. So when these two first meet, they kind of have a lot of opposites, so they don't really get on, and then they slowly develop a friendship. One that kind of has a bond that lasts a lifetime. Is about kind of following Ari's perspective, but it does follow the two and kind of their journeys throughout their teenage lives and discovering things about themselves, including discovering their own sexualities. I really enjoyed this book. It's written very poetically and kind of lyrically, but I did enjoy it, and I think I'll give this one 4 out of 5 stars, so I would really recommend it. And of course it has kind of a bluey cover. There is also a second book coming out after about 9 years called Aristotle and Dante Dive into the Waters of the World, which I'm quite excited to read now I've finally read this one. So the next one I want to recommend is You Know Me Well by Nina Lacour and David Levithan. I read this one a long time ago now, but I do remember really enjoying it. It has kind of a unique perspective on a queer book, as it doesn't follow two people who are wanting or are going to get into a relationship, but rather it follows them and their separate journeys. So this follows Mark and Kate, who have gone to school together for a while, but they don't really talk. And then they have a chance meeting, which I believe centres around pride. I remember pride being a focus in this book, and it basically follows them as they both want to get into relationships, and I think on this one night they both decide to pursue those relationships and the other one kind of goes along for the ride. So they are both gay, I believe, and I just really enjoyed this. I really enjoyed that it was kind of a friend perspective rather than, as I said, like a relationship perspective, and I thought it was really, really good. I would also recommend We Are Okay by Nina Lacour. Also falls under the blue spectrum of the rainbow. I would have put it into this video, but it's hiding behind something on my bookshelf, so I completely forgot to pick it out, which is why I'm going to just talk about it now as I've just remembered it. It's one of my favourite books ever, and I just absolutely love it, and it also includes a sapphic romance, and there is a lot of discussions of grief and other kind of mental health turmoil, but I really, really enjoy anything Nina Lacour writes. I did want to include Everything Leads to You in this video, which I also love, but I couldn't really fit it under the rainbow as it's kind of a pinky colour, but I will recommend anything Nina Lacour writes under this book. And the next one is History Is All You Left Me by Adam Silvera. I would honestly recommend any of Adam Silvera's books. This one is my absolute favourite, and More Happy Than Not is very much my least favourite, but I'm so glad that I gave this one a go because I absolutely adored it. So this is about Griffin, who lost his first love in a drowning accident, and it actually follows him as he kind of becomes friends with Griffin's new boyfriend. So at the start of this book, I think when Griffin passes away, he's moved away to college and he's found himself a new boyfriend. So they're not actually together at the start of this book. So he wants to turn to somebody, and the only person who kind of understands his grief is Jackson, who is Theo's new boyfriend. This one is very, very interesting, obviously, in the fact that it is about that weird friendship dynamic, but I really, really like this one. It's so, so emotional, and I really liked the kind of friendship, and there's a lot of important discussions in this one about grief and OCD and mental health in general. So as I said, I would recommend anything by Adam Silvera, but be prepared to cry. And the next one is Hideous Beauty by William Hussey. This is also a gay male-male romance, but the interesting thing about this one is that it's a thriller. I read this one, I think, last year. This one came out in June last year. This is a proof copy, and I just really, really enjoyed it. So this follows Dylan and Alice, who have a secret relationship that is exposed, I think, around their school on social media. After that happens, their happiness is very short-lived. They go out for a drive, and they end up in an accident. One of them gets killed. I think Alice gets killed. So Alice gets killed and leaves Dylan behind, and it is all about Dylan trying to uncover the mystery of what happened to them on that fateful night, and also deal with the grief and loss he is feeling. I really enjoyed this book. I really enjoyed the kind of mystery element of it, but I also felt the grief was written really well, and I would highly recommend it. And going back to sapphic books, we have The Love Curse of Melody McIntyre, which I very recently read and really enjoyed. The reason I wanted to include this one is because it's one of the few books on here that isn't necessarily a coming out story. The main character Melody is very much out and proud, so everyone knows that she is bisexual. She's in a relationship with a woman at the start of this book, and this follows her as her journey as a stage manager in her school's production, and it is about their production of Les Mis. I really enjoyed this one. It was a lot of fun. So they have these superstitions about the play, and there's things that they do for every single play to try and stop bad things happening to them, because there was a play that went really badly wrong, I think in 2007, and this time it is that she must not fall in love, Melody McIntyre must not fall in love until after the production of Les Mis. Obviously, when you're told not to do something, what do? You go and do it. So it's basically about her trying to unravel how she feels about the kind of curse that is on their production, or she believes is on their production, and battle with the feelings she has for one of the cast members. And this one was just so much fun. Had some great discussions about family and friendship, and I just love the people in this book. The cast and crew were so much fun to read about. I did put this one under blue. I know it's kind of pinky purpley, but there is a blue spine, so that's why I included it there. And we're nearly at the end. We're into the purples, and we have Girls of Paper and Fire. I really enjoyed this one, but it's been a long time since I read it. I do want to reread this one by the end of the year, before the third book comes out in the series, because there is two at the moment, which I have read both of them, but I'd like to reread these back to back. I really enjoyed this book when I read it quite a few years ago now. This is about Leah, who is a member of the Paper cast. There is different casts in this world, and Paper is like the lowest. And it is about the Paper girls who are chosen to go and serve the king, basically. But there is a sapphic romance in this book. I just really enjoyed this. It's a fantasy that includes a sapphic romance, and I thought it was really good. I wish I could give you more than that, but honestly, it's been a while since I read it, and that's kind of all I remember. I just remember really enjoying it. Then we have You Should See Me in a Crown by Leah Johnson, which I read last year and really enjoyed. This follows Liz Lighty. So she's always believed that she is too black, too poor, and too awkward to shine. But she's planned an escape route to college that unfortunately at the start of this book doesn't go to plan, and looks like it's not going to go to plan, and she loses her scholarship to get to that college. Then she remembers that there is another way to get a scholarship, and that includes running for prom queen, which is really out of character for her, but she decides to do it to try and get the scholarship. And then she meets Mac, who is one of the other girls who is running for a scholarship. And that is one of the kind of side plots of this book. I really enjoyed it. It had some great discussions about being black and being queer, and was just a fun kind of romance in a high school with the prom happening at the end, and I would really recommend it. And the next one is a gay male-male romance. This is one that I read recently, and that is Autobiography by Christina Lauren, and I absolutely loved this book, so much more than I expected. This follows Tanner, whose family moves to a kind of small town, and because of that he's back in the closet. He's bisexual, and he's very much being used to being out. And then he kind of gets back in the closet because of where he lives. And then his friend kind of dares him to join this class at school where they have to write a book. And he ends up kind of developing a friendship with the mentor that is one of the previous students, and comes back to kind of help them in this class. And he ends up trying to write down a story and writing his own autobiography. I love this book. It was so much fun. It had some great discussions of kind of coming out and coming to terms with who you are, and also had some great discussions about religion, because Sebastian, who is the love interest, is Mormon, so it had some discussions of Mormonism in here, and I really felt for these characters. I got so emotional that I was crying in the last 20 pages because I just wanted things to go right for them. And I would highly recommend it. I could not put this one down. And last but not least, we have Loveless by Alice Oseman. Again, we have an Alice Oseman book. There is 3 in this list, but I really wanted to include this one because it talks about somebody who is on the Arrow Ace spectrum, and I just wanted to include a book that was Arrow Ace in this video. And I absolutely loved this story. It made me think a lot about myself and where I fall on the Arrow Ace spectrum. And there's just so many important discussions about sexuality and growing up and going to university in Britain. So this follows Georgia, who has never been in love but feels like she really wants to be. And then she goes to university and kind of discovers all these new terms and things she's never heard of before on the LGBTQ spectrum. And it's about her learning about herself. There's also a lot of queer characters in the kind of university and in the kind of circles that she ends up running in. This is just such an important book, and it's so well written, and I really enjoyed it, and I would highly recommend it. I just hope this helps some people discover who they are and think about who they are and their sexuality, as it did with me. So that is all my, I think, 21 books that I wanted to recommend to you that are all colours of the rainbow. So I hope you found something that you want to read maybe that is LGBT. I really enjoyed filming this video and being able to recommend these books to you. I hope you enjoyed watching it. If you did, please give it a like and comment down below, especially if there's any books that you want to recommend to me that I haven't read in this video, and subscribe to the channel to see more like this. Thanks for watching. Bye!